Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the basics of skimming the ceiling. So if this is the first time you're thinking of doing a ceiling, there's a couple of things that I think you should think about. Before you start, and if this is your first ceiling, you really do want to make sure that you're comfortable up here. If you're not comfortable up here, it's not going to work. If you're uncomfortable, that means that you're not going to be able to look down your lights because you're going to be stressed. So if you feel comfortable in your scaffold before you start, that's the easiest way. I've got my benches there. My job is to make it as easy as possible. So this, I always like to think, is about the height that you want to be doing it. So when you're troweling it, you're not straining too much. So this is my scaffolding for the day. I will be walking across when I'm going across my lights. So I'll be just going from one area to the other. I'm very comfortable doing this. The reason why it's going this way for me is that it works best with the scaffolding. Ideally, you would want to be able to walk straight down, so you'd probably turn it around, but this room isn't that square, so that's why it's going this way, so it's going to make it easier for me. Always make sure you can reach all the way around. All the corners are the most important parts. Preparation, as always, is key. So make sure you've got everything where you need it to be. I'm going to be putting the ceiling on, but I'm going to be taking it out of a bucket. You can get yourself a spot, and that's quite a nice, easy way, but I like to have a bucket round, I scoop it out, and I move the bucket around with me as I'm working. Always make sure that all your screws are up. If you have anything, what will happen is you'll go across one, and what you can do is you can actually put a dent in your trowel, and that's just going to leave marks, and it's going to make problems for later on. This ceiling is going to be quite a simple one. I've got a rail going all the way around it, so I'll be working to that. I'm going to show you a method later of how to making sure that all your margins are perfect as well. When you're doing a ceiling, it makes sense to put skim all over your scrim before you start, because what can happen, especially when you're first starting, is that you can start scrimming and you can start pulling off the scrim as you're going along. One thing when you are going to be plastering a ceiling is you want to think about your eyes. It's one of the easiest things to go wrong. So if you get plaster in your eyes, it's going to hurt and it can lead to a trip to the hospital. So if you can wear goggles, I definitely recommend that. You don't want to be working above your head, because that's going to have more chance of you actually getting some skin in your eyes. So when you're putting on, keep your trowel away from your head. One thing that can happen is if you don't keep your trowel clean, is that's where the skim is more likely going to drip into your eyes. So as I said, always trowel and keep your head away from where you're troweling. So you're putting it on and you're just keeping yourself away so that there is less chance of it actually falling off the trowel, because that is where it's more likely to get you in the eye as well. And obviously you don't want to get covered in skim. Now I'm going to be talking about the angle of the trowel here. So obviously you don't want it you want it at a slight angle. So basically you get your stuff there and you push it in and then you just move it along. I'll show you that in a bit more detail when I've actually got some scrim, but so your footwork is always important, and that's because it's going to allow you to move more freely. So if you're just staying in one spot here and you're working above yourself, you're not going to get much of an area on it once, you're just going to be stuck. But if you open yourself up and you allow yourself to bend and twist and feel comfortable moving, then you're going to get a lot better spreadage area, and also you're going to feel more comfortable. So, as I said, when you start, put it on and spread. Pivot with your body. Make sure your trowel is not directly over your head. If you can move your head around, move it around. Corners, as I said, it's the same. See, I will trowel over my head because you do, but when you're putting on, you just want to make sure that you're moving away from yourself. Right, so I'm going to mix some skim now, and I'm going to start putting it on, and I will talk to you a bit more about the sealing as I'm going along. Right guys, so I've just mixed a bucket of skim up now. So this is normal, this is just a little bit stiffer than normal consistency. Now I'm going to start putting it on. As I said before, I'm going to start by putting some skim on the scrim. Right, so as I said, just a little bit on and just run it across the scrim. Right guys, so as I said, just put a bit of skim over your scrim, and this is just going to stop any of the scrim moving when you're actually going to be putting on. So I'm going to start putting on now. I'm just going to chuck my head cam on, and then I'll explain the angle of my trowel. So I'm going to start from this end over here. What you want to do is make sure you've got a clean trowel. So really, if you're first starting off on a ceiling, I would presume that you've done a few walls first. So you want to start off by putting a little bit on your trowel, just like that. Push it on. And obviously, as I was saying, you want to move away. So the more confident you'll get, the more you can actually put stuff on. So when you're first starting off, you do want to be trying keeping it as smooth as possible. So as I said, push it on. That's the areas you want to be watching out for, because they're the areas that might splash you in the eye, and that's why you want to be moving away. Right guys, so as I said, you just keep moving along nicely. Try and keep your trowel as clean as you can, and then you just keep moving along. Right guys, so I just put my first coat on now, I've not troweled it, I've not put a speed skim over it now, because there are different ways of doing this, but I'm going to talk to you about my method, and my method is using a speed skim. So a speed skim is just like a giant rule, and basically it just helps you get a nice level going all the way through. So I'm going to get my speed skim now, and I'm just going to start flattening all of this ceiling. So this is just basically to make sure I don't have any bumps or anything, so it's basically just leveling off. So I use two different types of speed skims. There is my metal one and my plastic one. My plastic one's 600, my metal one is 1200. I used to use the plastic one all the time, and then I moved over to the metal one a fair few years ago. And I always liked the metal one because it just seemed to last a bit longer. But this metal one now, it's got a slight kink at one of the ends, so it gets it pretty good, but it tends to just leave a line. So I bought the plastic one just to see if I'd prefer using the plastic ones again, and I'm still a little undecided. I do think the plastic one helps it pull in a bit quicker, whereas with the metal one, it tends to get a bit more of the moisture out, whereas the plastic one seems to move the skim a bit nicer and get it flatter and compresses it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my metal one today, just because I can get the area done quicker. Right, so I'll start in that corner over there. Right guys, so I put my speed skim over it now, and basically I'm just gonna give it a quick trowel, quick flatten, just to make sure that if there is any areas that need filling out, I do it now before putting my second coat on in a bit. So, as you can see, I'm just gonna walk straight down the light. Right guys, so this is the first coat. I've just given it a quick trowel, nothing particularly fancy. But as you can see, all around the edges, it's not bad at the moment, but I do have a trick for getting your margins a bit better. Using the best tool that any plasterer has, his hands. So, if you can see here, what I do is I make a bit of a lock with my finger. And basically, I just run it all the way around, and that will basically make sure that all the margins are all exactly the same, and that means you've got something to work towards as well. So, I'm just going to give this all a bit of a clean. It's all lovely and wet now, so I'm going to give it about 5-10 minutes now before I put the second coat on. I've not got quite enough in my bucket, so what I'll do is I'll mix a tiny bit more, and then we'll just put it all on then. Well, I'll just clean the edges then, and then I'll be waiting then for putting another coat on. Right guys, I'm just going to wait now for 5-10 minutes. I'm just going to have a quick drink. But if you can see now, the ceiling's looking pretty good. I like to get it quite flat before I put a second coat on it anyway. So I don't always wait for the 10 minutes. Sometimes I will just go straight ahead and I'll get on it straight away. But realistically, if this is your first ceiling, you need to get as much extra time as you can. As you see, I've cleaned all the edges while I was waiting. I've made sure all the margins are the same all the way around. I'm going to talk to you why I trowel across. So, because I have my main light source there, I always trowel across. So, the reason why I trowel across is because this is the way I was taught by my dad. And the theory behind it is that if you go this way, when the light comes in, because natural light will find any bumps, and that's what's going to make it all look wavy. So when you go across the light won't pick up any imperfections. It will just run straight. It will run nicely, so you won't see, so it won't look wavy. But obviously, ideally, you just want to get this as flat as possible, and this is where the speed skims do come into play. I'm not going to say that you need to buy one, because you don't need to buy one, but they are a great invention, and they really do help keep the ceilings nice and flat and level. So let's say, for example, because this is an old ceiling that I've overboarded, if there was any bumps or anything, when you put your speed skim over it, it will point out where you need to fill out. Once you've put your first coat on and you've speed skimmed, really you could probably get away without giving it a trowel, but because I just wanted to make sure that this was as flat as possible, so that's why I did it. And as I said before, the blade on my metal one is a little skew width, so it does leave lines. So I just wanted to get them out there, so I just gave it a quick trowel. Right guys, so it started to pull in quite nicely now. So what I'm going to do, I'll let you see. So it is a lot nicer now, the skim. It's not as wet now, so it's now time for me to put my next skim on. Normally, if I'd have a little bit left over, I'd use that now, but I didn't have any left over, so I'm just going to mix a tiny bit more, and I'm going to start chucking it on. Right, I'm going to go to a time lapse. Right guys, so I've just put the second coat on now. I actually mixed that one a little bit too stiff, if I'm being completely honest, but it all worked out fine anyway. If this is your first one, I would always recommend that you might as well start afresh. Just do a tiny bit of a mix and then get it all on, and then it's just going to give you that little bit extra time. But for me, I've just used the mix as it is, so I'll just show you now the next few stages. So what I'm going to do now is, you can see, I'm going to start troweling the ceiling now. So I start from the corner and I come out basically, and then as I said, I'm just coming out so far, because when I come out this way, I'll be then troweling down the light later. One thing that when you're troweling, You want to keep this fairly flat, but obviously not completely flat. If you go completely flat, it's just going to make bumps and you're going to bring off. So you want to try and keep it I'm going to come out so far, and then I'm going to run down the line, and then I'll do the same over here. Right, so I'll put you back on the tripod, I'll go to a time lapse, and then you can see me doing it now. Right guys, so now I've just given it its first trials. So if you can see now, it's looking okay at the moment. If you can look down the lights, you can start to see how it's starting to look. So with each passing, it's just going to get flatter and smoother. There'll be a few marks here and there. I'll probably get the trowel and just get over them in a second. But now it's just time to give it a bit of time. So you can feel it now. You can feel now that it's pulled in quite nicely. So it just needs a little bit more time. I'll be back in 5-10 minutes. Right guys, so I've just trialed this one now, so that was my second trial, so it's all looking pretty good now. One thing that I was always taught was, always come down off your scaffold and look up and look for any imperfections as you're going along, because basically this is when you're going to find them. 2 trials, it's looking okay. Looking down the light, it's feeling quite nice. So this is the final trowel now, so I'm trying not to have too much water onto the ceiling, but you do really need to keep your trowel wet. This is basically to stop any tiger lines coming through, because if you have a dry trowel, what can happen is it can actually drag a little bit when the ceiling's going off. This is the bonus trowel, so this is the plastic trowel that I like to do at the end. So I like to do a cross trowel on this part, and this gives a lovely finish towards the end. Right guys, so this is the finish with using the plastic trowel at the very end. It's lovely. All done. Right guys, so this ceiling is now done. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you do like this video, please drop it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I do drop videos every Tuesday, so I do videos on many different things. I do tool reviews, I'll do new products that I'm trying out, and I'll try and do a few tutorials along the way as well. And sometimes I'll just show you what jobs I've been up to. And I do quite a varied amount of different jobs, so there will be lots of different things for you to catch up on. But yeah, guys, if you did find any of this useful, as I said, drop a like and a subscribe if you want more videos like this. I drop videos every Tuesday. Right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Any questions, leave them below, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.